It's that time of year again. The coveted PlayStation wrap-up has dropped, allowing us to deep dive into our stats, gaming habits and the sweet platinums we earned throughout the year, whilst at the same time reminding us of all the time we've pissed down the trophy hunting shower drain. But we had fun, right? From blitzing through 102 games I'll probably never complete due to my cripplingly low attention span, to sinking over 2,000 hours into my trophy hunting endeavours. Hello? No, Sarah, no. It's not 2,000 hours, trust me. The PlayStation API is absolutely terrible. It tracks everything wrong. Okay, let's be real and jump straight into the meat and potatoes of why we love wrap-ups, the actual trophies themselves. As I tried explaining to Sarah Barra just now, PlayStation does a poor job of tracking certain elements, trophies being among them. I've slogged my way through 19 mostly juicy platinums this year, but Sony thinks I'm a peasant and only earned 17. Clearly someone at PlayStation doesn't realise how much a difference two platinums actually makes. January popped off rather slowly. I was still deep in my burnout phase of hunting over 30 platinums in my December challenge, which is still coming, hold your horses, and gaming was a slog at this stage, but if there was one title to bring me out of this gaming coma, it was Sekiro. From my least liked to favourite FromSoft title, Shadows Die Twice was the very definition of git good. The brutal pace and need to master counters against the punishing boss encounters was the perfect addictive gameplay recipe to get me back into gaming, but I wasn't quite ready to pop the platinum just yet. But I did still manage to squeeze out my first retro shiny of the year in The Amazing Spider-Man on PS3. Our resident Ken, Platinum Bro, sent me this title at the start of the year, which is Garfield's movie tie-in, and how could I say no despite the trophy burnout, especially when I consider these lovely stains that are still on it. I'll cherish them forever. The game itself was actually quite fun, especially considering the age and after experiencing Insomniac's masterpiece, but it held up remarkably well, with decent combat, a wacky take on the movie timeline, and most importantly, fun web swinging. The trophies were another matter entirely, with most being combat related, such as defeating the S-01 boss without touching base, or piling up a specific amount of stealth takedowns, just your usual affair. I played through on the hardest mode to get all the difficulty stacks out of the way, but nothing prepared me for roughly 800 different types of collectibles, varying from photographs to audio logs and more, with the absolute worst being the 700 pages, which were truly a slog to hunt down. And before I knew it, February was upon us, and that meant I could finally unwind and bask in the glorious world of Hogwarts Legacy. This is the definition of a perfect game and platinum journey for a Potterhead and new players alike. I've seen more than a few non-fans of the books and movies fall in love with the wizarding world after playing through this gem of a game. The most hated part of this platinum is usually down to the collectibles, having to hunt 150 Revelio pages, conjurations, appearance items, and 100 Merlin trials definitely sounds like a lot, but if you approach this wonderful realm from a non-trophy hunting perspective and pick these up as you explore, you rarely get bored finding what's left when all is said and done. And besides, you get to fly a hippogriff to keep clean up all that much more awesome. Can you dance like a hippogriff? That being said, as hard as it was, I had to step away from Legacy to keep it for my crowning 250th Platinum, but thanks to my Discord's Goblet of Platinums challenge, I had to put some points on the board for my team and earn some Platinums. So in steps my second Platinum of the year, which was recommended by a member of my Discord, a puzzle sim-like builder, Islanders. Now, I won't lie, I totally misunderstood the concept of this game and thought it was something else entirely, which left me with the same feeling when you order a juicy cheeseburger and it comes out looking like a depressed slop of meat on your plate that you've got to soldier on and eat anyway. The saving grace was how fast this platinum was. Clocking in at 3 to 4 hours, it wasn't anything super daunting, but certainly not ideal for me at the time. Most of the trophies require you to score a certain amount on a stage, travel through all the islands, and finally grind out more points and total buildings constructed. It was safe to say I was glad this was behind me. So naturally, I had to retreat into a game that I truly enjoyed to kind of stoke my fires again, and this was none other than Ghost Runner on the PS4 to stack it for a second time. Most of these trophies are related to skills, such as ending 3 enemies with a single use of blink, and combat feats like slicing through 5 enemies in 10 seconds with only your sword. And of course it has the usual upgrade and lovely collectibles we all love. The hardest are probably finishing a level without dying and 23 kills in a row, which essentially means completing a mission or 2 flawlessly, in a row. But they shouldn't be too much trouble if you leave them for your last 2 trophies. But I hadn't had enough ninja action yet, so I decided to finally jump back into Sekiro and finally claim this beloved platinum. Sekiro really did kick my ass when I first attempted this directly after Bloodborne, and for good reason. It may be a FromSoft title, but the gameplay couldn't be more different. Sekiro demands smart tactics, lightning fast combat smarts, and enemy knowledge, and it was just too much of a contrast for me to enjoy when I first picked this up. But after some training from the real-life shinobi Guy Furuski, I managed to slowly master this outstanding game. The trophies, unlike the game, are nothing remarkable though, most of which are tied to defeating each boss, upgrading all your gear items like the healing god, and obtaining each of the 4 endings, 3 of which you can save scum if you so choose. The only downside is acquiring every skill in the game, a rough grind to close out such an amazing game, but I'd do it all again in a heartbeat just to get this platinum a second time. It was time for a break though, so I jumped into a game that I'd been avoiding for years at this point, the creepily awesome Until Dawn. Not much needs to be said about this interactive horror story. You control a bunch of teens heading into a gruesome fate where you control the outcomes. I can't really say much about spoiling this game, but what I will say is definitely avoid the trophy guide and enjoy a virgin run the first time around, as this is the worst type of game to ruin yourself trying to platinum it in a single run. All the trophies are tied to character deaths, interactions, and even having everyone survive or no one at all. But do yourself a favour and enjoy this title the proper way first. And February was coming to a close, and I had another recommended game to play, an indie gem known as Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. This weird, almost twin-stick style indie was a breath of fresh air, controlling your ship with your left stick and weapon orientation with the right, all while switching to your pilot so they can upgrade your ship and man the stations. I mean, it's probably a good representation of what it's like to be an Amazon fulfillment worker. Trophy-wise, this game may set you back 8 to 10 hours and is mostly the standard of completing the stages, collecting friends and defeating the bosses. Some of the most fun trophies are actually for defeating the bosses in a specific challenge condition, such as hitting Orion with a solar flare to finish them off, or defeating Cetus whilst its head is underwater. But March was upon us, and I was missing the intensity of the gaming sessions, so what did I do but dive back into Aliens Fireteam Elite for a second round. Having already mastered the PS5 version, myself and Crimson Purgatory decided we needed a bit more punishment as a masochist we are, and dived into the frame rate hell that is the PS4 version. We thought the first time round was rough, but adapting to sometimes sub 20 frames per second and glitchy aliens certainly gave us a new appreciation of our PS5s. Fireteam Elite is no joke under the best of conditions. As the name implies, you need a coordinated 3-man fireteam working as one to make it through the 12 missions on each of the 4 difficulties. They don't stack, which may seem like a pain, but you'll be grateful for the time, as you'll need to acclimatise to the growing intensity, upgrade your weapons and skills, not to mention hoarding valuable condition cards that will save the day on insane mode later. But after all that intensity, I actually decided I wanted a little break in the single player realm. But rather than playing a brand new game like a normal person, I decided to revisit the past and do Arkham Asylum all over again. Rocksteady mastered the formula of a perfect Batman game in the same way Insomniac nailed Spider-Man, with hard to master but fluid free flow combat that cuts like a hot knife through butter, an amazing roster of well-played villains to battle, and a gorgeously dark Gotham atmosphere. This is exactly what I needed. You need to clear the story on hard for biggest bang, and be very wary of a few easily missed trophies, one roughly in the middle of the game and one which is near the end, which is the worst, called Party Pooper, for taking out all the henchmen in a specific room. It's a rather dirty trophy to be aware of, so you can avoid a second playthrough. As always, there's way too many Riddler puzzles to solve, but at least they're mostly fun, and a bunch of combat related trophies, but the hardest part of this platinum for most are the combat and predator challenges themselves. These require near perfection to earn high score medals, with one of the rarest trophies being free flow perfection, where you have to perform a perfect combo using all of Batman's combat moves. And then, in April, a big boy dropped, something we were all anticipating. The Resident Evil 4 remake was finally here, and it's safe to say what I spent most of my time on during that month. The genre-defining title was back and better than ever, with much improved gameplay and mechanics such as stealth, which added more freedom and depth to battles, and blade encounters, which requires timing and skill to pull off but are extremely satisfying as part of Leon's arsenal. Trophy-wise, you're in for the usual resi shinies, burning through the bosses, completing all the iconic merchant side quests, obtaining every single treasure across the game's locations, and combat-related trophies, such as suffering no damage on the water scooter, and reaching the top of the clock tower without letting the enemies stop the lift. The various limited runs are back too, where you must complete the game with just knives and handguns, or how about not talking to the merchant at all? You no longer need to obtain a professional S+ rank to earn the hand cannon required for a trophy, which lowers the stress somewhat, although I'm determined to finish my final playthrough on professional S+ without bonus weapons in 2024. Why? Because I clearly like being hit in the knackers. We then hit May, and at this point my burnout was resurfacing from playing too many games too quickly. But I still wanted to hang out with the boys, but had no desire to play games or earn trophies. So what was the solution? I'll tell you, it was Bus Simulator 21. Yeah, a game that was weirdly satisfying for your OCD and one that honestly gave me a newfound respect for bus drivers. This shit ain't easy. Not only are passengers annoying at times, you also have to contest with the civvies, both in cars and on foot.
Fucking move! Fine. Fucking take that, you cunt. Taking pictures of my fucking bus. What an absolute cocksucking arse wanker. I'll take the 20 grand fine, now you're in hospital, ha ha ha.
Despite spending a lot of hours chilling in this game, I doubt I'll ever go back to get the platinum, as the trophies, just like the game itself, are notoriously glitchy. Around June, I was itching for a real game to sink my teeth into, and I jumped back into Cyberpunk 2077 now that the game was somewhat fixed around that time. I wasn't concerning myself with trophies, as this is another prime example of a game you do not want to ruin even glancing at a trophy guide. You should play it your way. After spending 40 of my 50 hours or so playing with my junk in the character creation suite, I moved on to wait for further improvements, which have thankfully now arrived, and decided to earn some more shinies in the meantime. The first of which was a true indie gem called Citizen Sleeper. Inspired by role-playing tabletop games, you're a lowly citizen worker aboard a space station, working through story points and decisions, all dictated by dice rolls under the hood and timers making you consider your actions extremely carefully. A lot of the trophies are based on completing quest lines and performing certain actions, with a bulk dedicated to the various endings you can achieve. If you want a fast but great indie plat, this one is definitely for you. And although that platinum was fast and great, the next one I picked up, Space Revenge, let's just say it may be fast, but it's far from great. It looked like a cool little game on the store, but I didn't do my due diligence and check the trophies beforehand, which meant I had a grub on my hands. Before I knew it, I had the platinum within an hour and felt filthier than that time I spent all evening in the bathroom after trying UK Taco Bell. The trophies are as basic as using a medkit or nabbing a kill with a grenade. This one is for the grub hunters for sure. But I somehow redeemed myself from that shame by helping myself to a double serving of Crash Team Rumble. This is a fast-paced team objective game with the goal of collecting the most Wumpa Fruit to win a match. With all the familiar Crash universe characters to play and earn trophies with, you're bound to have a good time, especially when playing with friends. A lot of the trophies require you to win matches with each character and different power items equipped, along with some skill-based trophies such as Fruits of Your Labour, perhaps one of the hardest, requiring you to bank 1200 of the 2000 Wumpa Fruit in a game required by yourself, and it's definitely not easy when playing with randoms. But the real grind is getting any hero to rank 15, which will take the bulk of your time. But thankfully this rank carries between both versions of the game simultaneously, so once you have a max rank character, you can quickly go back or forth with your knowledge and earn the rest of the trophies in no time for a second stack. Now that we're getting deep into the second half of the year, there was another anticipated game of mine that was about to drop, and it was Aliens, yes, another Dark Descent. Clocking in a bit different from the other Alien games of recent years, Dark Descent is a classic top-down real-time tactical experience, forcing you to react on the fly, making heart-stopping decisions in real time to create for a harrowing challenge with honestly one of the best stories from any Alien franchise media. You're tasked with slowly progressing through 12 missions, all of which you'll slowly chip away at deployments due to their massive size, and have to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. Thankfully, these stack, and if you want to really punish yourself like me, you'll also enable No One Can Hear Them Scream mode, which essentially stops you from saving inside the mission to get all the difficulty type trophies in a single run. You'll also need to rank up all your classes to max in a single campaign, not allow any Marines to die, unlock every weapon, and of course, the stupid collectibles. I was actually in line to be one of, if not the first achievers of this platinum, but sadly, the collectible trophy was bugged for months, so by the time I earned this platinum, after they patched it, I was knocked off the podium spot. But July was still a busy month, as I impulsively bought Zorro the Chronicles to relive some of my childhood, but the less said about this crap, the better. Maybe an 8-year-old would find this entertaining, but I was sure questioning my life choices when earning this mundane platinum. So naturally, a palate cleanser was in order. So I jumped back into The Last of Us Part 1. You know the score, it's the classic Naughty Dog story, redone with bells and whistles, and mostly the same trophy list. It was a joy to replay through this beloved game once again, and even though they removed the difficulty trophies, they certainly kept all the collectibles for us to pick up one more time. If there's any saving grace, it's that you no longer have to redo the faction's multiplayer trophies, and even though it was fun, it was way too grindy to repeat a second time around, resulting in a chilled platinum experience through the apocalypse. But the real joy was closing out this month with Spec Ops: The Line, a seriously underrated third-person war shooter with a deep-hitting storyline that will leave you shaken and displaying the true horrors of warfare and the serious effects of shell shock. The Platinum will take you a few playthroughs, mainly because the hardest mode, Fubar, is locked until you beat the penultimate difficulty mode, but since the game has branching paths due to decisions you make that also have trophies tied to them, you'll be thankful, as some choices are easier for Fubar mode, so some planning is required to ease your pain later on. Add in a few miscellaneous weapons and collectible trophies and the plat is yours. Now for August, I was feeling a little bit spicy, especially after seeing Sarah smash her way through Crash Bandicoot 4 like a pro. It kind of inspired me, and it made me realise I need to stop being a little bitch and actually take on this mammoth challenge. Platformers are not my strong point by any means, and considering I found Crash Bandicoot 1 insanely hard, I never had any hopes or desire to challenge Crash Bandicoot 4, but after some training and good motivation, I soon went from 100 deaths per level to smashing through relics in no time, which was a welcome surprise, and it goes to show never to doubt yourself. I'm still working on this beast between other projects, but I'm close to obtaining all 38 of the insanely perfect relics, and it's almost time to hunt the same amount of Platinum Time Trial relics, which for the most part is the meat of this prestigious Platinum, one of which I can't wait to earn. And the frisky feeling continued in September. I was getting regrets, thoughts of doubt of a Platinum that I abandoned all those years ago. Attack on Titan, Wings of Freedom. I left one trophy and I just abandoned it due to the insane grind. But I decided enough's enough. It's time to man up and do this. I've talked about this game before, and despite it being an extremely fun entry for any fans of the anime, it's a different beast for us trophy hunters. 99% of the trophies aren't even going to bother you, even the S ranks, as they can be done on easy mode, but the hellish grind to complete the encyclopedia will take you tens of hours at a minimum of tedious grinding, and even though I'm glad I got it, it made me question my sanity. But clearly it wasn't enough, because after dragging my balls through that glass-filled grind, I decided to jump into another big grind, Monster Hunter World with the boys, Crimson Purgatory and Guy Fieriuski. Now in truth, this was made more bearable by playing it with the boys, and the game is genuinely fun when you finish your first playthrough, but just like many other games out there, the trophy grind absolutely ruins the game. You'll need to rely on RNG to obtain the total of 56 crowns you need, as well as research every monster to 100%, bunched in with hitting level 100, crafting weapons, and hunting rare RNG creatures you need to capture, as well as a ton of other tedious tasks. So unless you love Monster Hunter, you're in for a hellish, boring grind, which is why it occupied both my September and October months, and I still don't have this Platinum as of yet. But in November, I was granted a reprieve. My baby, my childhood gem, this bad boy here, Metal Gear Solid 1, signed by David Hayter himself. Finally got a Platinum trophy. It's taken this long, but it was finally here. The main challenge of this legendary title is earning the Fox or Big Boss ranks, which has a brutal list of requirements. If you go for Fox, you'll need to beat the game on hard, within 3 hours, being spotted less than 4 times, using 1 ration or less, and killing under 25 enemies, and that includes mandatory bosses and enemies alike. You can save a lot, but you have no radar, and you can't continue an area if you die, you just have to reload. You can make this challenge easier, but certainly not easy by any means, by finishing the game on hard first and earning the stealth camo for your rank run. You can earn the ranks without it, but you'll need to truly master Metal Gear Solid to come anywhere near to achieving this. It also decided to take a page from Metal Gear Solid 2 and include 300 VR missions to work through, unless you're an idiot like myself and played her on disc and have to finish 600 of the bastards, but it was still an enjoyable experience regardless. And I wasn't done yet. Myself and the Platinum Podcast boys, Platinum Bro Guy Fieriuski, teamed up with Crimson Purgatory to tackle a game called Anthem. We thought it was a great idea, and let me just say, it definitely was. What started as a fun romp with the boys soon turned into a nightmare. Once you complete the story, the gameplay loop dies. There's just nothing to keep the game interesting anymore, and to make things worse, you then have to rely on RNG to find weapons and skills you then need to use for several missions to pop specific trophies. Oh, and let's not forget about the hundreds of horrible RNG collectibles. Our advice is solidly to stay away from this junk heap of a Platinum. And finally, to round the year out, I had one game that I absolutely hated and could not stand that soon turned into a new love. I'm talking about none other than Code Veronica X. You might have guessed I'm a bit of a Resident Evil fan, but for some reason I could never vibe with Code Veronica. Maybe it's because I played it after I adjusted to the new formula. I just can't quite place it, but I'm determined to get this Platinum. After my initial run whilst playing it with Sarah, it felt like an arduous journey, but I did start to appreciate it by the end of the game, but I didn't truly value how great this genre is until I started my A rank speedrun attempts. Like all Resident Evil titles, you need to achieve a specific rank, in this case an A rank, which requires you to beat the game without manually saving bar one free save midway through the game. You've got no first aid sprays, you can only use herbs to heal, you need to rescue Steve at speed, save Rodrigo, and finish the game in under 4 hours and 30 minutes, which is a bit of a task for the non-veteran, but I managed to achieve this on my second run. There's also a speedrun trophy for 4 hours or less without needing to worry about any rank requirements, but both can be done at the same time with just a bit of practice. The true blocker for this supposed 5 out of 10 difficulty game is the battle modes. Fast-paced room clear stages where the room for error is almost non-existent, and if you're a sucker like me and playing the PAL version, which plays at 50 FPS, everything runs slower. The animations, the menu screens, the load screens, which makes everything harder. The clock still runs in real time, so any speed-based trophies, speedrun, battle mode, you have it, it's harder, which quite comfortably would raise this game to a 7 or 8 out of 10 at least if you're playing the PAL version.